And this brings us to the top three. Now, these are some of the heavy hitters, and remember, I go back to the beginning. This was a list that was compiled by you, True North insiders, who had the chance to vote and get your favorite fake news stories of 2022 up to the top, and we are now in the final three, and we've got some heavier content here, but number three is a bit interesting because this is more of a general category, because if we were to break down every individual story in this category, I think it would probably be the entire list here, as evidenced by the fact that it did make it to the top three. But what do we have in third place, Harrison?
We have Poilievre Derangement Syndrome, and of course it had to be on this list. I mean, what a great year of journalists just completely melting down, embracing their own little CNN, MSNBC reaction to Trump for their own opportunity to kind of turn that into their own reaction to Poilievre. So they broke out the Poilievre Derangement Syndrome, and I mean, again, like I said, we could have a whole top 10 list of best examples of this, but why don't we just go through the list? I mean, we had op-eds and columns in the Globe and Mail talking about the dangerous rage, Andrew, from Poilievre's leadership campaign, the dangerous rage Poilievre is channeling. Or, as another Globe and Mail op-ed wrote, the corrosive campaign. I mean, truly breaking out the going in with all the synonyms for how you can try and write, bad, right? They're trying to take Orange Man bad and turn it into Pierre Poilievre. They did their absolute best. So we had dangerous rage, we had corrosive campaign, 2 Globe and Mail op-ed headlines, embarrassing stuff. But then also we had what I thought was the best example of Poilievre Derangement Syndrome was when Global News, Rachel Gilmore was a journalist, when they took the picture, the handshake between Jeremy Mackenzie and Pierre Poilievre, and they took it as some sort of grand endorsement of the far right, the radical far right, because someone in the Diagolon, the meme country, by the way, took a picture with Pierre Poilievre, who unknowingly took the picture with him, and then that was basically the news cycle for a whole week. So there was that, there was the handshake, there was also the meltdown of the Anglo-Saxon language, Andrew. I mean, where do you start? It's just a whole collection of fake news examples that really deserve their entire show unto themselves.
Yeah, and when Pierre Poilievre used the term Anglo-Saxon words, what he was talking about was that we need to use, politicians and governments need to use simple, clear language in legislation and in general so that Canadians know what's being discussed. So the fact that that was plucked out of a 90-minute interview with Jordan Peterson and held up as something offensive is absurd. I think my favorite is the MGTOW controversy, which was this hidden meta tag that was in YouTube videos that apparently got there and no one knows, and this was a dog whistle to the far right or to the incels or whatever. And the hilarious thing was Global did a report about this, and in the hashtags they included the hashtag MGTOW, which was the exact hashtag that they were taking aim at Pierre Poilievre for. And again, it's really this perspective of if you are looking for something, you will find it. And the media already decided this guy's far right, so every step he took, especially early on, they had to filter through that. But I think the best one might be this one from Pierre Poilievre's first media briefing as leader of the Conservatives.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Appreciate your presence here today. Before I begin, let me just say that thank you very much. I'm being heckled here by. Thank you very much for your congratulations. Thank you very much for your questions. I'm going to begin my remarks now.
But will you take some questions afterwards?
Justin Trudeau is out of touch, and Canadians are out of money. The cost of government is driving up the cost of living. $500 billion of inflationary deficits have bid up the cost of the goods we buy and the interest that Canadians pay. The cost for workers and businesses to produce the goods that we buy. On top of that, Trudeau proposes yet more spending to bid up costs even further. The more he spends, the more things cost. It is just inflation. Their homes and to buy a home in the very first place. The reason that So I mean, we have basically a liberal heckler who snuck in here today Well,
My name's Dave Aiken. I work for Global News. I'm the chief political correspondent for that organization.
Are you gonna let me make my statement?
You may remember me from the guy who actually reported first on the Prime Minister breaking the law.
Yeah. Are you going to let me make my
We'd just like to
statement?
ask a question. Say, yes,
I've actually never seen you heckling the Prime Minister.
Before. Ask Minister
Never seen
Baird
you
back in
heckling
the
the
day.
Prime Minister. Look, bottom line is
Are you
this.
going to take some questions at the end of this statement?
Yes, I'll be taking 2 questions at the very end. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
So I'm going to start my statement again.
Yeah, he wasn't going to take questions, then he said he would take some questions, and then one journalist, David Aiken, decided to use his question to demand more questions, and as a result, just proved exactly why Pierre Poilievre might not have had the most friendly relationship with journalists.